Okay, take three, and welcome to Critical Weight Theory. And today I'm digging into Highway 61 Revisited, the 1965 Bob Dylan album that marked the moment he threw himself fully into electric rock. If you know even a little Dylan, you know this is the record that split audiences, rewired songwriting, and helped move popular music into a new era. And honestly, I should have my brother Ryan as a guest on this episode because he was a huge Bob Dylan fan when we were younger, and I'm sure he still listens to him today. But I do have to admit, he listened to Bob Dylan so much that I just could not get into it because I just heard Bob Dylan all the time coming out of his room, and it was just too much for me. So it took me a little while, a few years after that, before I could actually listen to Bob Dylan again. You know, I kind of had to spend some time not hearing him for me to start to appreciate him more. So let's start where the album starts with the opening punch, the song Like a Rolling Stone. 6 minutes of sneer, swagger, and surprise. At the time, singles weren't supposed to be that long. They weren't supposed to sound this raw either. The guitar work from Mike Bloomfield and the steady push of Al Cooper's organ keep the whole thing humming with some tension. Al Cooper's organ line is really the anchor, and the famous story is that he did not really know how to play the organ. Dylan's voice cuts through everything like someone who's already made up his mind and doesn't care whether you're ready for him or not. It set the tone for the whole record, which is sharp, chaotic, funny, and really never polite. And I would be lying if I said that this was my favorite song or even my favorite Bob Dylan song, but I do understand that it was massively influential. And it's one of those things where even if you're not a fan of something, you just have to acknowledge the impact that it had. The example that I always use is the rock band Kiss. I'm by no means a huge fan of Kiss. I don't really listen to them. I've never listened to a full Kiss album. But nevertheless, if I'm being honest, I just have to respect the fact that they are an influential band. Same thing here with Like a Rolling Stone. Only I do appreciate the song better than when I was younger, as I kind of suggested earlier. So the sound, it's a really influential sound for the whole album too. This was the real shock for a lot of people. Dylan had built his reputation on acoustic folk songs that sounded like they belonged on a picket line or in a coffee house. Then he shows up with electric guitars, tight rhythms, and a restless charge running through every track. The music feels like a party and a protest happening at the same time. Some of his folk audience hated it, some felt betrayed, but he wasn't backing down. And for that, I pretty much have to give him some respect. He was somebody who was just ready to forge ahead. He wasn't going to listen to the naysayers. He kind of wanted to rock, a little bit more, and that's what this album really provides. It's a little bit more raucous sounding, and the themes. It's kind of hard to just concentrate on any one theme for the album. The songs on Highway 61 Revisited feel like quick snapshots of mid 60s America. There's satire, some vague prophecy, humor, frustration. It's all in there. He's pointing at the world around him, exaggerating it at times, twisting it, and somehow still telling the truth. It's a confusing aspect of music is that sometimes if you're not spelling things out in the most plain way, sometimes you can still make a lot of sense. And by the time the album reaches Desolation Row, the energy shifts, the electric noise falls away, and you get an 11-minute dreamscape of broken characters and frayed nerves. There's Cinderella, Casanova, the Phantom of the Opera. They all drift past like symbols from a country losing its balance. And this is a very poetic album, and that's why Bob Dylan is known as a great lyricist. He, of course, won a Nobel Prize for Literature, I believe, and a lot of people found that to be controversial, but it was due to the massive contributions that he made as far as turning song lyrics into literature. You know, his contributions to the musical form or something like that. That was the argument that they made. And even though some people were naysayers about that, I think I understand it. You know, song lyrics, they are like poetry. Well, they are poetry, really. And if you're going to acknowledge poetry as, I guess, a literary form or whatever you want to call it, just something that broadens the creative realm of writing, well, you know, I don't need to add anything else to that. And I'll let you fill in the blanks on that one. So the title, you know, Highway 61 isn't just a number. It's a real road that runs from Minnesota down to New Orleans, often called the Blues Highway. Bob Dylan grew up near it, so it was part of his personal landscape, but it also carried the weight of American music history. It's a place where folklore, migration, and the blues all connect, and Dylan turns it into a kind of stage for the strange, angry, funny world that he's building and satirizing on the record. And after Like a Rolling Stone, the album moves through a set of songs that feel like wild little films. The title track plays like biblical chaos. Ballad of a Thin Man follows a confused outsider wandering into situation after situation that he doesn't understand, just like Tom Thumb's Blues sounds like someone trying to escape a city that keeps pulling him back in, or something like that. You might have different interpretations of these things, and I guess you could let me know about those if there's a comment section in this episode, wherever you find it, maybe on YouTube. Let me know what you think about the lyrics. Am I misinterpreting anything? Am I saying anything horribly wrong about the album? Totally inaccurate or whatever. You know, just feel free to let me know about these things. So, of course, this album matters still. People still listen to it. And when people talk about turning points in modern songwriting, Highway 61 Revisited is almost always going to be in the mix. It showed that folk ideas could collide with electric rock without losing their bite. It proved that surreal, or razor sharp, razor edged lyrics could reach a massive audience, and it gave Dylan the space to become something bigger than a protest singer or a folk hero. You know, he kind of was interested in going beyond any single image or characterization of Bob Dylan. And more than 50 years later, the album still feels alive if you listen to it, if you give it a chance. And I know Bob Dylan is a polarizing figure due to his vocal delivery and other things, but nevertheless, I think if you can look past any sort of original negative feelings you might have toward Bob Dylan and just sort of let the album wash over you, you might find some good quality to it to latch on to, because there's a whole lot of different stuff here. And Bob Dylan did write a lot of classic and influential songs, whether you like it or not. And this album sounds like someone pushing every boundary that he can find and having fun while he's doing it. And yes, this is kind of a fun album. Um, I don't know if that's said often enough, but there is an element of fun to it, humor, lightness, even though it's also heavy at times. And a lot of stuff is open to interpretation. So let me know what you think about it. How do you interpret this album and individual songs? Did you have experiences like I had when I was younger and Bob Dylan's music kind of drove you up the wall, and maybe you needed years to be away from it to finally give it a chance again? So that's a little bit of like my origin story when it comes to the Bob Dylan experience. I guess I kind of, you know, grew out of not liking Bob Dylan, or however you want to phrase it. So yeah, I think that's all I need to say about this. Go ahead and like and subscribe, or whatever uh, button there is that does something positive for the podcast. Go ahead and click it, and I'll be back maybe at some point to review the song Highway 61 Revisited, because, like I said, there is a title song, and usually when there is a title song, it means it's an important song, because why else would they name the album after the song, or maybe the song after the album? There's some significance there, so I will probably at some point review that title song. Thank you.